I guess I'll just play Mass Effect so I can keep an eye on the chat, especially because I'm having so many issues right now. And then the stuff that I wanted to talk about today, which is actually in the title, is Furiosa, Bad Boys, Red Rising, and then kind of just how ideology is undermining all these fucking movies, and I'm not even sure if they realize it. Because I think there's things ingrained in the ideology that's dominant in Hollywood right now that they don't even see as an issue, although it's undermining all their fucking movies. So I guess I'll just start with Furiosa. One of the other guys who comments a lot, Jay, said he went and saw it, and he agreed with my video before it got copyright striked that the movie's just a slog. And, you know, box office wise, it's been a bomb. Oh, hey, Flack, what's up? Yeah, that's kind of what I was referring to when I was talking about their ideology. Is their ideology is that they don't even see why their movies are not successful, but it's ingrained into their beliefs. And one of the biggest things is this sort of kind of trying to make everyone androgynous. Like, I don't want to get into a huge political rabbit hole here, but it's kind of ingrained in this gender ideology shit that almost like blank slate bullshit. So blank slate, for people who don't know, this whole tabula rasa, I think it was Rousseau that was like really the first one to push it, essentially says that everything that humans do is environmental, but there's no cultural aspect. And most people, I would say, agree that biology is a huge factor. Hey, what's up, Glad? And so I think what you're seeing is this sort of masculinization of women, and at the same time, this feminizing of men. They think they need to please everyone and end up making crap that sucks. See, that's the weird thing too. So they're doing this masculinizing women, feminizing men, and also complaining that their movies have no broad appeal. And their little ideology of this gender ideology, blank slate shit, is very niche. Like, there's not many people that think that biology is just irrelevant. And that kind of seems to be baked into their beliefs. Hey, what's up, Divine? So, sorry, I was trying to see how I can make mods again. I don't know why I have an issue with that since the first stream. Pissing me off, though. I'm just too much of a boomer. So, you know, what you're seeing is women don't like, you know, the Tom Hollands and Timothy Chalamets of the world. They like the Chris Hemsworths and the Hugh Jackmans and the Jane Tatums and Ryan Gosling, whatever. And at the same time, they're giving us these wide-eyed, hammerhead-looking chicks with the body of teenage boys. So this is why you're seeing like the Little Mermaid chick, Anya Taylor-Joy, Zendaya. And they're like, well, why aren't our movies popular? And it's like, well, you've picked people that no one finds attractive with movies that seem to jam ideology down people's throats. And even aside from all that, they're just bad movies. So then when something like Furiosa comes out and just bombs, they're surprised. Like Furiosa right now, I think is at like 65 million worldwide for the box office. So a budget of 160 million, that movie's already, at least as of now, shit, they lost over $100 million. Because they get half the box office if you're being charitable. And that doesn't even include marketing, which admittedly there wasn't a ton for this movie, but still, not a ton is another $25-50 million. So yeah, it's just crazy to me that they've baked in all this bullshit and they just don't get it. Like, if you ever watch older movies, there's always an element for like the main male of, you know, women want to get with him and men want to be him or whatever. Like men find him typically, obviously I'm generalizing, but you know, men find them aspirational and women find them very appealing. And you can have female leads, right? Like there's been female leads for fucking ever. And typically those women are the same except reversed. Like the men want to hook up with them and women think that, you know, they want to look more like them or they can at least appreciate their beauty, you know, whatever. So you've got all this crap and then just generic, poorly written movies. Like Flack was saying, where they try to do this mass appeal shit so it appeals to no one. And the ironic thing in that is that if you just make the movie that you want to make and the story that you want to tell, it will end up with mass appeal. Like Game of Thrones was the biggest show culturally, I mean, probably 20 years? Probably since like Friends, maybe The Office. And there's not a person in the world, I would think, that would just assume that Game of Thrones would have mass appeal. But he told a really good story. It was something that people hadn't really seen that much of, you know, killing off main characters and no one's safe and all that stuff. You know, same thing if you go back in the day to Star Wars. Like you don't expect a sci-fi movie where people are using essentially magic in space to be one of the most successful movies ever. And I think if you just look at ticket sales, it's the second most ever behind Gone with the Wind. And obviously Gone with the Wind is a totally different era. You know, 80 years ago when there was a movie out. So and the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I watched Bad Boys last night as I was going to bed, the first one that came out in 1995. Not a particularly good movie, but it just, you know, they're making the fifth one now, or it's about to come out, or it just came out. Like, obviously, it's successful enough to keep going because, you know, you appeal to people broadly. And broadly speaking, people want attractive people. They want relatable characters. And then they get so bogged down. I'm not sure how many of you have followed like the advertising for The Acolyte. The only thing I know about it is that everyone is gay. And that, you know, there's no light and dark, there's no good and evil, which is the total antithesis of Star Wars. I don't know if Rings of Power has gone this route where they want to try to make like Sauron sympathetic. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But it's just hard for me to imagine being like, yeah, the orcs, you know, if the elves were just nice to them, Middle Earth would have been peaceful. And that's the exact type of shit that I'm referring to when I say their ideology is bleeding in ways that they don't realize and just fucking everything up. Like Bad Boys is a super simple movie. There's guys who are evil, they want to sell their drugs and kill these hookers who saw them commit crimes. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are good guys, and their names are Mike and Marcus in the movie. Mike and Marcus are good guys. They want to stop them. Super easy. And that formula has been successful in storytelling forever. You don't need to make everyone like, oh, maybe they're not actually so bad. You know, this whole, we're not so different, you and I, whatever the fuck. Like I think Goblin Slayer is one of the best examples of this, as far as like more recent shit. Like the goblins are just evil. Like it's okay to have characters that are just evil. Like you don't have to make excuses for them. You don't have to try to justify why they're evil. They don't need to be complex. And you know, complex villains can work. But if you look at like the really popular stuff, is anybody sympathizing with Voldemort? You know, is anybody sympathizing with fucking Sauron? Like in the movies and books? No. He's just the embodiment of evil. I mean, even Darth Vader, like if you want to say that he had a redemption, I think people would say he had a redemption arc, but no one would say that he's not evil. And I don't know how long this is going to last, because I keep seeing people be like, oh, you know, Hollywood's on the way out. You know, like they're gonna turn it around because they're losing money. I don't even know if they're aware of the issue. And then when you combine that with their weird ideology shit, like I was talking about, where they want everyone to be androgynous, like they think that that's what's normal because they're out in California and LA and New York and whatever. Most people believe in predefined gender lines and possibly even gender roles, depending on the person. So you want a movie with mass appeal, you have to understand what appeals to most people. I don't think they do. So I don't see this getting better anytime soon, unless they just get really lucky. Let's see. Furiosa is a Mississippi 10. I like the movie, but they're allowed to lose to Garfield. Yeah, this is what I was saying the other day. I can't remember if you were there or not, Hard R. That Furiosa is one of those movies to me that's fine. Probably never watch it again. Which, you know, see, the problem I think for Hollywood too is that if a movie is fine, but you'll probably never watch it again. But you know, you're not mad that you spent your time and money. I think people will still go to the movies. But when it just seems like every movie sucks balls, you know, you're not going to give them the benefit of the doubt that you might enjoy the movie. And I think that's a huge problem for them right now. And that's not even getting into the economic constraints people are under and all that type of stuff too. People in places like New York and LA online have said tickets are like $15 a piece or like close to $20 a piece. I could not imagine being like, yeah, Mrs. Casual, let's go spend $50 to see a movie that's probably going to be bad, but maybe it'll be decent at best. And that's like kind of the boat they're in right now. The Acolyte could be good, but Star Wars has had one good show and 5 bad because they have to force X character to be the main when it doesn't work. I assume the good show you're referring to is Andor. I haven't actually seen it. I've heard good things. But Kenobi sucked my balls. I did videos on that one. What else was there? Oh, Boba Fett I heard was terrible. Mandalorian, I watched the first 2 seasons. I thought it was really boring. I heard season 3 was way worse. Yeah, Star Wars is getting to the point where I think it's becoming culturally irrelevant. And I actually started a script for a video on that a while ago and then got distracted with other shit. I like Bad Boys, but it's one of those franchises they're just pumping out due to its fan base. Like you said, the first film was bad in the 90s, and Will and Martin are old, but no offense to them. Yeah, and I kind of wonder, I mean, look, I was actually talking about this last night with Mrs. Casual. Hey, Jay. That there's a thing with like, I don't want to call it a black movie because I don't really think of Bad Boys as like a black person movie, but it does have 2 black leads. And there's like this dynamic in a lot of black comedies and action comedies where you just get these people, just yelling and being very loud the whole time. And it's just not my thing. But black people will go see it because it's a black oriented movie, right? It's how what's his face, Tyler Perry, has made like $1 billion because oh shit, I'm about to die. Because there's a market there. Like there's if you make black led movies and they appeal broadly to black people, they'll be all right. And I kind of wonder if that's what Bad Boys has hinged on. But see, Bad Boys 2 was the first one that I saw as a kid. And I thought 2 was the best one. 3 was and 1 was not very good. Very 90s, a lot of stupid action movie shit in there. Star Wars is the story of Anakin's rise and fall, according to George Lucas. Well, I mean, I think that's, as far as Star Wars, that's another huge issue they're having is, like the core of the saga was Anakin, and then intentionally or not, they undid all of it with the sequel trilogy. And instead of having the grace to be like, okay, we fucked up, they've just come out and shit all over the fans. And you really have to wonder if they weren't constantly attacking the fans and calling them sexist and racist, if you would see this almost bitter uprising online of Star Wars fans. Like if they just made bad movies and they were like, oh shit, like we messed up and didn't really say anything about it, I don't know if people would even be that upset, or if they'd be like, I want Star Wars to be good again. But when you come out and attack the fans, which is what they've done, I think it makes it really easy for fans to be like, okay, like you want to attack me? Fuck you then. I'm not going to go see your movies, and then I'm going to start a YouTube channel and go after you because this is bullshit. And it's just pure arrogance and a complete misunderstanding of who the fan base is. And this kind of goes back to what Flack said earlier, that by trying to appeal to everyone, they don't appeal to anyone. Also, I think Hollywood doesn't know what to do to deal with people that have shorter attention spans and want constant action. Yeah, and that's a good point too, Flack. And their solution right now seems to just be load everything up with action, everything up with jokes, make everything kind of generic and quippy. Yeah, it's a bad formula. And I don't know, for the kids who are growing up and grew up on social media, because social media was still relatively new when I was in like high school. I don't know if those kids can even be brought in unless it's a trend, right? Like that's how you get Oppenheimer. That's how you get Barbie. But if there's no trend, like a movie like The Fall Guy, I think 10 years ago would have done okay at the box office. People would have went and saw it, but fucking no one saw that movie. And it was all right. I wouldn't call it some masterpiece, but it's a typical action comedy. Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, a couple good leads that I think are pretty likable. And it just vanished into the ether. I think it's already on streaming. Or maybe you can rent it. Either way. Movies used to be written by people that worked normal jobs and grew up like the average person. Now it's nepotism and privileged people with no life experience. See, that's a good point too. And I would also add in there, not only is it nepotism, they're actively seeking out ideologues. Like they want people who are going to say what they want them to say. So even if they accidentally got somebody who was creative, what good would it do? Because you're going to end up with studio executives and whoever, producers and blah, 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 being like, hey, we need a gay person and a minority. This time we'll count the Asians, even though they didn't count last movie. Like, you just end up with a mess. So even if you have someone who could be or is creative, I think they just completely shit. Oh, you fucker. I think they just completely miss because you have so many people stepping in, just too many cooks in the kitchen. And then you have these Hollywood producers that are like, hey, we need this DEI money from BlackRock and all this shit. It's just a mess. I don't even know how they fix it, honestly. So you're getting inexperienced activists who are just ideological zealots who openly don't care about the things that they're making. And it's okay to not care about what you're making. Like if you're not a Star Wars fan, but Disney says, hey, you're a good screenwriter, come write a Star Wars movie. I think that can work as long as they're willing to be like, hey, even if you don't give a shit about Star Wars, you need to respect it and respect the fans. And then you have your lore experts come in and help them, in the points where they want to do something that would break the lore, like in Last Jedi with the Holdo maneuver, all the obvious shit. Like that's where your lore experts need to be like, no, this doesn't work, and you're not telling your own story. You're telling a story that's part of a much bigger universe. So you need to fucking respect it. Let's see. I get where you're coming from, but I feel like if the movie is good, people will see it, like Dune, Barbie, and Oppenheimer. And I sort of agree with you, Mr. Divine, that if it's good, people will see it. But I think probably now more than ever, any good movies are just not getting the benefit of the doubt that they would have 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They just preach at you and tell you that you're a piece of shit or just shit all over a certain evil orange man. Yeah, this hypersensitivity to politics and this hyper awareness of politics has been devastating. I mean, even Disney, which I think people thought was untouchable, has managed to piss off a ton of its core fan base, which is families, because they believe that they're serving some righteous cause. It's crazy. Bad Batch and Andor was about the only good things Star Wars has made. Yeah, I heard Bad Batch was pretty solid. I didn't watch it. But overall, it seems like the reception's been decent. But the problem is, when you say the reception's been decent, if no one's watching it, then you're essentially getting the hardcore people that are going to like everything. Not really a great sample size there. Jay says, me, Chris Hemsworth will be topless the movie. Wifey Chan, I don't need it. The movie will probably be bad. Yeah, and then, you also have to wonder, like the joke about Chris Hemsworth, I think is funny, being topless. But you do have to wonder if social media and just all this celebrity access has just undermined so much of the mystique of these people in Hollywood. Like a lot of hot chicks who are actresses and celebrities will just go on Instagram and put their titties all over the place. That used to be something that's like, oh, do I want to go see this movie that I might not like? But I'll get to see some, some sexy Salma Hayek or whoever you're into. Now, not only that, and this is something that I think affects athletes a lot too, is having access to these people has made it apparent that, not only are they just humans, they're kind of pieces of shit. Like, does anyone look at an athlete's Twitter and think, oh, I like him more now? Or an actress or actor or celebrity? Very rarely, I think, does social media benefit anyone who's already famous. Like, they all think it's going to increase their brand. And I think what it's actually done is make them, it's just shown their true colors. It reminds me of the fucking Dark Knight when the Joker's like unfortunately he's shown the Batman has shown everyone your true colors, and you look like shit. And that's kind of, I think, what's happening with the celebrities and the athletes and the politicians. I mean, the politicians, for the most part, unless you were super involved in watching the news, which was already very filtered, we know that now. Well, it's become undeniable now. Maybe people already suspected that. So I hate this part of the fucking level, because there's a part right, if I survive this last blast, where it glitches a lot of the time, and then you just die because you can't do anything. But yeah, I think just seeing these people for who they are has made everyone be like, wow, Like, you guys are just really fucking assholes. And I don't want to support you with my money. Like, you're already rich, that's fine. But I'm not going to give any more to you. I'm not going to give you my attention. I'm not going to give you my time. I'm not going to give you my money. Yeah, this is the part that I was saying glitches. I think I got it. Uh-oh. See, motherfucker glitched. And you just get blasted. This fucking level, man. Yep, and now I'm dead. You piece of shit game. So yeah, I think just everything right now is working against Hollywood. Star Wars would get less hate about the bad stuff, but they keep calling us sexist and racist because we don't want poorly written characters. Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at, is that I think that if they just made bad movies but kept it themselves, most people would call it bad, but then let it go. But then when you constantly see articles coming out attacking the fans, you know, they're doing like these little puff pieces. All the journalist outlets are. And then some guy with a webcam can be like, hey, they've casted a female lead in literally every fucking product for a decade. And also they're saying they hate men. I think it makes it very easy to attack them. And they deserve it. That's what happened to... You piece of shit. Oh, shit. Damn, I was trying to read the chat. That's what happened to Marvel. They were told not to read the comics, not to actually look into the character. Yeah. Yeah, the comics industry, man, is a mess for a lot of reasons. But the amount that they just don't care is wild to me. Because my understanding is that comics used to be like a multi-$100 million industry. I'm not sure if it was ever a $1 billion industry. It might have been. I mean, it was around for decades. You know, like look at all the cultural icons we've gotten from it and all the references. When you bitch. Oh my God, this level's pissing me off. I might have to stop talking for a minute just to get through this fucking scene. But yeah, the comics thing is wild, where they're like, don't respect the lore at all. Tell the story that we want you to. And look, comics go kind of crazy, and I get that there's going to be things that need to be translated because, you know, it's just not going to translate very well from a comic book page to a movie. But it's also hard to make that argument when manga is just fucking dominating right now. I think it was Young Rippa, maybe a year ago, had a video that was like essentially just about how manga is destroying the comic book industry. And it was the top 20 comic book sales for that month. And what they started doing was including manga to the comic book sales. And manga had the top 20 spots for whatever month it was. It was like November of maybe 2021 or something. But just absolutely fucking crushing American comics. Fucking cheating ass game. And that's like when you consider like the language barrier and everything, I think that makes it even more apparent just how bad and how far comics have really fallen. Like they just are getting dominated by a foreign country in a foreign language where everyone has to wait for translations to occur, and they're still just getting destroyed. All right, let's see if it works this time so I can get through this fucking scene. There we go. Thank God. And I think a huge part of the problem with comics, and I wish more people would talk about this, is that comics, I'm a normie with comics. I've never read any. But I think there's two huge problems with it story-wise. One is that it just seems like it's all superhero shit. And I know you get other random stuff like Walking Dead. You get stuff like Constantine. Somebody told me in the chat the other day the movie Wanted was based on a comic. So there's other stuff there. But if you look at manga, any genre of entertainment that you want that you can get in Hollywood, you can get in manga. Like, you can get romance, you can get fucking hentai if that's what you're into. You can get drama, you can get action, you can get superhero shit. You can get horror stuff. Like manga doesn't have any limits in genre. And I think that's something that really hurts comics, is that whether it's true or not, for a normal person like myself, it seems like it's only superhero shit. And the other aspect of this that I wanted to mention story-wise is that with the comics, I think a huge issue is they spent all this time building up about a dozen characters, pretty much the Justice League and the Avengers, as far, X-Men also, as far as your normal audience goes. And instead of branching off and having new ones that grew over time and got popular, they just did all this weird multiverse shit. So like, even if you wanted to get into comics, like I was considering reading Guardians of the Galaxy after the movie came out because I really enjoyed it. And I tried to look up stuff online and I was like, I don't even know where to fucking start, because there's like all these different runs by different authors. There's these different universes. Like I'll hear Nerdrotic and Heel vs. Babyface talk about Batman, and they're like, oh yeah, this run is really good and this version of Bane is really good. And it feels like they've mentioned like 50 of them. And with manga, generally speaking, your characters have their story, it ends, and that's kind of it. I don't know. I think that's why manga has just destroyed comics in recent memory. On top of the fact that obviously, they've neglected them. They just keep doing like butt-fucked handicapped Spider-Man that no one gives a shit about, and then self-insert fat lady that no one gives a fuck about. So comics are dead as far as I can tell. And I think they're way too late, even if they wanted to do other genres and branch off. I don't know how long that type of infrastructure would even take to build up, or if you could even make it build up, People should only write stuff if they care. They can fuck off if they hate it, like Halo and Star Wars is now. Yeah, that's a big thing too. I honestly don't think they need to be a hardcore fan. But if you actively hate a franchise, I don't know why you would want to partake in it. And I'm not sure why the studio would allow you to. Because I'm not going to say it's impossible that someone could hate something and write a really good story. But it doesn't seem like a good fucking idea, Like, if you knock up a chick during a one-night stand, maybe you guys will date and get married and live happily ever after. Or, maybe you'll end up owing some bitch money you hate for 20 years. Just doesn't seem like a good idea to me, was my whole point there. Rings of Power did the same thing. Yeah. Let's sing Imagine, then complain from our multi-million-dollar mansions about how bad everything is. I wonder how many people even remember that now, because that was cringe as fuck. And you had all those celebrities going crazy because they weren't getting enough attention. Bunch of fucking losers. Look at the live-action remake of Cowboy Bebop. They said, hey, we messed up, then proceeded to make One Piece live action. Yeah, my understanding for One Piece, and I think One Piece, unfortunately, instead of being the beginning of a trend, I think will end up being an anomaly. Because it seems like the guy Oda, who's the author of One Piece, essentially was like, I want complete control or you can get fucked, is my understanding. And I've read the manga up until I read the manga up until where Arlong shows up. And there's definitely some big changes, but it's nothing that you really lose anything from. And you can see why they made the changes, and it doesn't take away from the characters of the story. There is a way things can be adapted that functions the same, even if it's not identical to the source material. I don't understand why make a live action manga and have CGI and fake sets to adapt it in order to have it work. I mean, Mr. Divine, I agree with you, but the problem is, and I don't know if this is something that will ever go away. Maybe it will with this next generation of kids because they prefer to be on streaming instead of, watching TV shows and movies clearly from these box offices. But I think for as long as entertainment's been a big thing, people have viewed movies as the most respected, then TV, then probably books, and then comics are like way behind all that, along with animated stuff. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but for whatever reason, people will look down on, but they look down on it. They look down on animated stuff. They look down on video games. They look down on comics. So I think there's something to that people feel satisfied, when they see something they really care about brought to life. So I think as long as that mentality exists, we're going to keep seeing it, as far as I can tell. But I agree with you. Animation just works better for some things. It's like a lot of the rom-com animes and stuff, like they can be adapted live, but I think something you really miss when you go from animation to live is like you can do these exaggerated faces. You can get away with a bit more physical comedy, if some chick slaps a dude and he rolls 100 feet, as to where live action that might just come across like abusive. And, you can't do these crazy exaggerated faces for humor and that sort of thing. It just doesn't translate even on like a rom-com level, let alone when you start getting into stuff like One Piece or, fucking, I don't know. Like there's a Tokyo Ghoul live action movie that covers up to not quite the end of the first season, but maybe like the first 8 episodes or something. It's okay, but they cut a lot out. There's a lot of changes they had to make. It just doesn't translate. I agree with you. Story-wise, as far as, mass appeal, there are going to be people who are simply like, I will never ever watch a fucking anime. But if they see the live action where you like it, maybe they'll give the manga a read. It's hard to say. Shepard dropping the smooth lines there. Let's see. American comics used to be everywhere and comic shops. Now it's just comic shops. American comics alienated average people long ago, and the multiverse nonsense you mentioned drove away more. Yeah, I think comics, and this is just pure speculation, I have no idea. I wonder if they were one of the first victims of this sort of corporatization of a brand, because the comics, to my understanding, were popular from whatever, the 60s or 70s up until early 2000s. And in all that time, they didn't branch off and make other characters that got popular. And I'm sure, I know there's like a million billion comic book characters, but like as someone who, let's say I'm more nerdy than a normie, but I'm not like a comic book person. Like for me, I can name all of the mainstream heroes and villains. But beyond that, I don't fucking know anybody. Like I didn't know about Winter Soldier until it was in a Captain America movie. And I would wager that's 99% of people. So they had all that time and all that success and just did nothing with it. They just exploited it and ran it into the ground. I mean, it's almost like what EA Sports has done to numerous franchises, except in comic book form. The issue with comics is writers not willing to try to make their own. They'd rather just borrow a popular IP like Hollywood. Yeah, that's kind of along the same lines of what I was just saying, where, the people who go into comics seem to be the rejects now. not like people who just grew up loving comic books and thought, oh, I want to make my own. It seems like people who are like, oh, well, I wanted to write a book or a script or a movie or whatever the case is. But, they offered me whatever it is, 10 grand to write Batman. And they said I can do whatever I want. So yeah, I'm going to make him black and gay. And also a chick. Like that fucking South Park meme. Yeah, comics, man, the locusts got their fill and they just left the fucking husk behind, didn't they? Animated is the best way for movies and shows. You can make them look almost any way possible and do cool stuff. Is it the best? I think animation should be seen as the same level of prestige as live action. But I don't know how long that stigma of animated should be for kids is going to last. Because it's been that way my whole lifetime. I mean, even now, like when I tell Mr. Casual Senior I'm watching an anime show, he's always like, how can you watch that shit? Like, he won't even watch something if it's animated because he thinks it's for kids. He'll laugh at a Family Guy joke or something, but he's not gonna go out of his fucking way to watch it. That's for damn sure. So I think animation has always been looked down on, sadly. And I don't see it changing anytime soon. I mean, maybe with my demographic, it is changing because, obviously I'm an adult, I'm married, I have a job, and I watch anime. My wife watches it with me. But I also don't know how much of a niche we are. I mean, if you ever go look at the top 10, like Nielsen ratings or Samba TV or whatever, it's almost certainly going to be whatever the newest movie that got put on Netflix is, along with some like reality TV shit that I've never heard of. Maybe a couple of shows that chicks watch. Animated stuff is almost never there. Like, I don't know. I just don't know how long that's going to take to change. And, one of the things I think is really cool with animation is, for action stuff at least, is you don't have to worry about, stuntmen and safety and logistics. Anything that you can imagine for an action scene, you should be able to do. And presumably, if you want to do like super long one-shots and stuff, you can. Because you don't have to worry about everyone getting together and making sure everybody's hitting their cues and blah, blah, blah. And, like if you want to do a super long one shot, when you're making a movie, that's a big deal. You have to have whatever it is, 50 people do their job exactly right for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. For animation, if you can think of the choreography, you can just draw it up. There's no need to worry about people getting hurt, missing their marks, how you can get the camera in there. All that shit's just irrelevant. So I do wish animation would be a little bit more respected and a little bit more used. Like there's a lot of benefit to it. I think animated will become more popular because a lot of people that grew up with it are going to keep watching it. I hope so. But it's also just hard to say because there's like a real dividing line between people my parents' age who are over 50 and then people who are like my age and younger, where I feel like my generation, I'm a millennial, is one of the first ones to really embrace just watching what you like, and the whole jocks versus nerds thing and all that shit is gone. Like, I do think it's growing. I just wonder if there's a limit to it. Jay says, dude, has changed a lot. Animation and anime seem totally mainstream compared to the before times. Yeah, you know, my friend who got me into anime used to watch it in college, and I thought it was so weird. And he was telling me that you had to wait like months for translations, if at all. And that was for like the mainstream stuff. And he used to help do some of the translations. But now with stuff like Crunchyroll, you know, it comes out in Japan. It comes out here a few hours later. So no, I mean, you're definitely right that it's relatively more mainstream. I just don't know if it'll ever be, you know, to the same level as mainstream like reality TV and shit here. But I hope you're right that it just keeps growing, because I think society would be a better place if shit like, you know, Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia and Erased were more popular than fucking Keeping Up with the Kardashians and Real Housewives and The Bachelorette season 50 or whatever the fuck. So I hope you're right. And relatively, you're definitely right that it's grown a ton. But I don't know if you guys have played Mass Effect, but I actually like this little couple dynamic here. And the whole dynamic between those two is that he's always joking about other women. She finally gets pissed off about it. And you can kind of chastise him there and catch them making out later. Man, these games were so good. I was really hoping that when they remastered it, they would expand on the ending just a little bit, but oh well. But yeah, I just animated will become more popular when they see how much money there is to be made, like they're saying now with video games. We'll see, and that's the thing too, that you have to wonder, is it a concern? Because right now, one of the things making anime so popular, I think, is that, you know, I was bitching at the beginning of the stream about how they're making the men and women androgynous. They're trying to destroy gender roles. Right as of now, Japan is still saying, okay, well, we're going to keep all that stuff. And if you don't like it, don't watch. Like, we're going to put big titty girls in swimsuits and have them get walked in on in the shower and all that kind of shit, right? But you have to wonder if Japan, which I think the whole country is like 100 million people or something, 80 million people, if they're going to see like, okay, well, now we have this market in America and Europe that could expand our market by 1 billion potential customers. Are they going to give in to that bullshit? Which ironically would make it less popular. And hopefully they don't. Most of the world keeps gender roles. It's just the US brainwashed with this idea. Yeah, I would probably say the US and Western Europe, but yeah, I agree. And you know, I don't understand why it's so hard. And they laugh at us for that. Yeah, they do. I don't understand why it's so hard to have a woman be like sexy and kill shit, but also like to look pretty or be into whatever female hobby you think that, you know, is stereotypical. I mean, I was actually debating while on this strike, doing a video about how dumb non-binary stuff is. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because of this conversation. And I don't know if you guys give a shit about this or not, but there's a video about like what is being non-binary on Tinder. And every single comment is like, I'm more confused now. And I'll just go ahead and say my opinion is the non-binary thing is just people who are really insecure. I think that's all it is. It's trendy and they're insecure. Because every single person that I've heard talk about being non-binary is like, well, you know, I was born what do they say? I was born a cis man, but I also like to wear dresses, or I like makeup, or you know, cooking or baking or whatever stereotype of a girl hobby or girl thing. It's fucking people that want attention. Yeah, I agree. And you see the same thing with the girls to men who are like, you know, these people, like these girls that are boyish or masculine, whatever you want to say, they used to would have just been called tomboys, and many of them just grow out of that phase. But now these poor girls, you know, and boys, but it's actually a lot of girls for the trans kids shit, which I honestly think shouldn't even be in our fucking vernacular. But a lot of it is like, oh, my girl picked Batman instead of Barbie. Let's put her on hormones and cut her boobs off. And it's just like, what are we doing here? Like, as a society, like, what the fuck are we doing here? And the non-binary thing, every single person that I've heard talk about it, seriously, is just like, you know, I like these things that are traditionally feminine, but I'm not comfortable enough with myself to say that I like them unless I categorize myself as non-binary. And then all of a sudden it's okay, because that's the accepting community. And, you know, I'll go ahead and tell you guys, I used to live out in Denver. I worked night shift, so I had the whole day to myself when my wife was at work. They're like, look at me more, I'm different. Yeah, I think Flack seems a little bit triggered. But I agree with you though. But you know, I lived out in Denver, I had the whole day to myself. And I was like, I agree with you completely, Flack. Flack said, like, I like cooking and baking, I'm still a fucking guy. Jay says, after leaving the USA, the absence of that nonsense was stark. Now I see women dressing feminine as the norm. Where'd you move to, if you don't mind saying? Yeah, you told me it was, you had quite the hike to get to a theater, so I was curious. But when I was out in Denver, I had the whole day to myself, right? And I was like, well, I need to fill my time because I'm sleeping at work. They don't have anything for me to do. But I have the whole day to do what I want. And I was just playing Halo, not being very productive. Back when the MCC was relatively new. And I used to do jujitsu. Oh, you're in Denver. I used to do jujitsu in the morning, and then I would go to ballet in the afternoon. I started taking adult ballet classes because I was like, you know, it's way different than anything I've ever done. And also, a part of me was like, you know, it's just fucking old ladies and gay dudes. Like, I actually have no problem doing this. I played sports my whole life. I gotta tell you, after about 5 minutes into my first class, I was like, oh, fuck. It was really difficult. It's way more... Oh, you're in Japan. Nice. I got you. But yeah, so I used to do ballet in the afternoons. Everyone was super nice. But, man, it is just all muscles that you just don't use unless you dance. And it was hard. I did it for a couple of years until I moved to North Dakota for work. But I really liked it. You know, it was good exercise. I felt like I was a lot more flexible. And it's interesting because I did jujitsu in the morning and ballet in the afternoon sometimes. And both crowds of people were super nice. Like jujitsu, very blue collar crowd, at least the place that I went. You know, some of those guys were plumbers and janitors. Some of them were like engineers and shit. It was a good range of people. A lot of men and women. Women there beat my fucking ass. And, you know, I learned a lot. It was fun. But everyone's super nice. Like, if they beat you, they're like, hey, you made this mistake. It's a very supportive environment, you know, if you have the time and money for it. Like, if you're looking for a hobby. So I would definitely recommend jiu-jitsu. And ballet was also super nice. Everyone, again, really supportive. I was pretty much like the only dude. And, but that was a much more kind of upper middle class, artsy, you know, obviously very left wing crowd. Left because when I moved, I was working on an oil rig, so I was gone a couple weeks at a time and all that. Kind of sucked. But yeah, those were both super good hobbies if if you guys are looking for something to do. But the only reason I even brought it up is because, ballet is something that is traditionally thought of as obviously super feminine. People think, oh, ballet is for women, And I thought it was really challenging, but I also really enjoyed it. But at no point was I like, I'm not sure if I'm a man anymore because I'm doing ballet. And just the idea to me that people were so uncomfortable, with themselves that they feel the need to create a new category and refer to themselves as they, them, and whatever the fuck just to justify their hobbies. To me, that speaks to a much bigger problem culturally of just how insecure the kids are growing up now because of social media, probably. I would imagine it's a huge part of it. Yeah, I got totally fucking sidetracked there. But yeah, that whole attitude is not mainstream. I don't think it's ever going to be mainstream. I just don't. And until Hollywood figures out that like men like big muscly men with big guns and shit and big titty women, and women like muscular men and attractive women, and movies about fucking love and feelings, I think they're just going to keep bleeding. I mean, the superhero era is pretty clearly dead. Even if Deadpool does okay, which I'll be honest, I think people are really overestimating how well it's going to do. But as a whole, it's done, I think. Mr. Divine says he lived in Japan too. Out of Iwakuni. I'm not sure where that is. Yokohama I've only heard of because of anime. I'm not going to pretend like I'm familiar with, Japanese geography and cities or anything. But yeah, I've seen really mixed things about living in Japan. I've seen a lot of people talk about the work ethic there and how it's just kind of insane. And then I saw an article recently. I know Korea is not the same, but where Korea was trying to make their standard work week like 55 or 60 hours or something, which is just fucking insane. Oh, wow. It's an hour from Hiroshima. Damn. Do people live in Hiroshima now? I mean, I know that's obviously where the atom bomb fell, but I wasn't sure if it was safe to live in or if it was just a wasteland for 1,000 years, like Chernobyl or something. Oh, nice. Yeah, I know like with the half-lives and stuff that the radiation drops off pretty quickly, but I wasn't sure if it dropped low enough to be safe to live in or if it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, people live there, but the cancer rate is 20% higher than the rest of the country or something. Istad says yes condescendingly. Oh, it's not as bad as Chernobyl, I say. Yeah, for those of you who weren't in the chat last Wednesday, I know Istad in real life. Oh, Hiroshima's known for the Yakuza? Damn. I know Istad in real life. You can see he's a member. And also a cunt. Oh, Istad, I'm halfway through Plastic Memories, by the way. So I'll probably finish watching that later today. And if I can figure out my microphone issues, I'll get that recorded tonight. Oh, I see. The bomb detonated in the air versus Chernobyl that exploded into the earth. Yeah. Well, Chernobyl too, I think just kept pouring out radiation, right? Like that was because the Soviet Union didn't want to admit that they fucked up. So it just kept dumping radiation. don't know if I should add another gun or not. Yeah, this one looks. And Chernobyl was a whole reaction. Yeah. Hard R says you get more damage with an airburst. Um. Yeah, this is beyond me. I'm not. I'm not a nuclear physicist or engineer or anything. I remember learning about radiation and shit and like planetary geology back in college, but shit, that was over a decade ago. Oh, but the radiation doesn't linger for long. Damn. ISTAT says compared with other nuclear events, the Chernobyl explosion put 400 times more radioactive material into the Earth's atmosphere than the atomic bomb. Damn. Yeah, because I thought that was the big thing with Chernobyl was that because they tried to essentially cover it up, that it just kept dumping radiation for like weeks. I'm trying to figure out how to make you guys mods. I'm getting a little bit annoyed by this because I was able to do it. You can see all the wrenches in here. And when I click the dots next to your name, there's nothing happens. Fucking thing. At the Chernobyl reaction point in the middle, it'll still kill you in a few minutes. Yeah. Yeah, there was actually a movie about that a few years ago. It wasn't very good though. I can't remember if it was called I know the show was called Chernobyl. I can't remember if the movie was called Chernobyl. And the premise was that there was like monster. It was like a horror movie. Like a shitty horror movie. And the premise was that there was like radioactive shit running around Chernobyl and some kids were going there to fuck around. You know, as in all, you know, the way that all horror movies start. Bunch of kids being fucking idiots and running into monsters. I wouldn't recommend it though. I'm sure you can Google what it was called. I can't find it. I can't remember what it was called. If you're lucky, you can pet a dog before you die. Yeah, fucking probably 6-legged dog or some shit. I'm gonna try to look up how I can make you guys mods. On bitch to me right now. If maybe I can go to YouTube. Let me see if I can go to my live stream. I can just do it there. I should have the authorities. There we go. Here we go. Just took your modding away, Istad. Okay, so I guess maybe the easiest way for me to do it then is literally just to go in here and into my YouTube, and then I don't have to fuck with OBS too much. Try to make sure you guys are all the right level of mod. If you see that I removed you, I'm adding you back right away. There we go. It was inbred radioactive monsters the government was hiding or some shit. Is that what it was? Yeah, so you know the movie I'm talking about. That movie was not very good. I think it might have been one of those like little indie Blair Witch Project type movies, though I can't remember now. I don't think it was a big studio film, but I could be wrong. Any thoughts on the trailer for Jesus Christ? Sorry, Jay, I'm butchering your fucking chat there. Any thoughts on the trailer for Coppola's Metropolis? I've not seen it, but I heard somebody talk about it, saying that there's gonna be a part in the movie where someone who works there has to come out and talk to the audience, like he's interacting with the people on the screen or something. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, I don't. No matter what the movie is, it sounds pretentious as fuck. So I don't have any desire, like, at all, to fuck with that. Because that just sounds like douchery. What did you think of it, though, Jay? Are you going to go see it? Or is it one of those things that just people are talking about it? Have you ever played the Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor games? Because if not, they could be chill live stream games, and they're both good. No, I've played Fallen Order is the first one, right? I played like an hour of Fallen Order at a friend's house one time. It was all right. I didn't really get too invested in it because I was just kind of fucking around while he was getting ready for something. But yeah, I mean, if they're cheap, I wouldn't mind buying them. Obviously, I don't really want to pay $70 or whatever just to have a game to put on in the background. Yeah. Found footage, coil pack got stolen from their van. Yeah. Yeah, that was a pie. Play some Helldivers. Is Helldivers still trending? Like, I heard for like maybe 3 weeks or a month, it was super popular. And then I heard a bunch of people bitching. And then I never heard anything else about it. It's on Game Pass. Okay, I don't have Game Pass because I honestly don't play that much. Jay, I could be mistaken. I'm like 90% sure that was the movie that I heard that about, though. Maybe you could Google it to make sure I'm not just fucking going crazy. Damn, Helldivers still has 300,000 players. If anything, train wrecks can be fun. um, oh, they bitched about the PSN thing, but then they went back on it, so everyone was happy again. Yeah, yeah. I knew there was something that happened that everyone was like, "Fuck this game," but then I guess it got resolved pretty quickly. But from what I've heard, and this is just people speculating, it just sounds like in the future they'll just announce that as part of the game and not some kind of add-on later on, and then people will just eat it. The message was pushed on community manager's Twitter, and they kept fucking it up. Huh. Yeah, I feel like if I were to start a corporation that was anything in like, whatever, retail or whatever the fuck, that I would be like, none of you bitches are allowed to post on Twitter about our products. Like, don't talk to the fans. No. There's just nothing good comes from it. Oh, I see. So the PSN thing, Black is saying, is just to make their numbers look good, and it's pointless. I got you. Is Helldivers only on PlayStation, or is it on Xbox and PC and shit too? Because I don't even have a PlayStation. I wonder if I could find a cheap copy somewhere. That in certain countries want ID and shit to do PSN network, and they still haven't given people access back. Wow. Yeah, man, this whole subscription based mentality. Oh, PlayStation and PC. I got you. This whole subscription based mentality. It really just makes me want to fucking strangle somebody. Oh, Xbox is soon. Okay. Yeah, maybe if it comes out on Xbox, I'll grab it then. And who knows, maybe I'll have fixed my fucking audio issues by then too. Everybody doesn't just sit through half an hour of me sound like I'm going through a tunnel when I'm talking. Yeah, I mean, I can play whatever, right? I mean, I'll play whatever I have. I definitely don't want to spend money on brand new games each week or anything, since we're just kind of chilling and talking about movies and books and whatever. I think that you get access to a ton of games for $20 a month. Yeah, I know that it's like for people that play a lot of games, they definitely get their money's worth. The problem is I literally don't play games. Like when you like what you guys see me playing is the only time I've touched my Xbox the last 3 weeks. Like every once in a while, if my wife and I go out for drinks or something, she passes out like 9 o'clock because that's what she does. I'll you know, I'll whoops. That was Filthy Casual Senior calling me. Oh, you're being sarcastic. You get so much access to shit games for $20 a month. But yeah, what I was saying was even if I do play, it's usually like, oh, I've been out for drinks and now I'm just kind of chilling. And I'll throw Halo on for an hour or Mass Effect or something. If we're talking about books, talk about McCarthy. Who's McCarthy? Like, what books are you talking about? Because the other topic that I had in the title that I wanted to mention at least was the Red Rising books. I don't know if you guys are big readers or anything, but the Red Rising series is a sci-fi series. And I would definitely recommend it. There's 6 books out right now, and people think the 7th and final one is going to be coming out hopefully by the end of this year, maybe early next year. But yeah, so the Red Rising books, let's see, you guys are on my Game Pass still. Games just aren't the same anymore, to be honest. COD, Halo, Battlefield, Total War are all failing, and it's so sad because those games were so good. Well, they're putting the COD games on Game Pass now, right? Yeah, when BO6 comes out. Oh, Black Ops 6. Oh, No Country for Old Men, The Road, Blood Meridian. Yeah, No Country for Old Men. That movie I just wasn't a fan of. I watched it once. I know a lot of people consider it like one of the best movies. I was just very meh about it. Maybe I'd have to watch it again to really give it another chance because I watched it probably 10 years ago at this point. The Game Pass would be more popular if they did that with more games. Having access to old, outdated games isn't that appealing. Hmm. Oh, they're doing Halo on PlayStation? That's crazy. But Red Rising, if you guys like sci-fi and like just reading in general, that movie is legit. Yeah, I know that. I know people love it. I've only watched it once, so I'd probably have to watch it again to give a more fair opinion. When did that come out? Like 2005 or something? I think of how old I would have been when I watched it the first time. I don't remember hating it. I just remember it being just kind of like meh, like whatever. I mean, obviously, I haven't watched it since, so not like I had a super high opinion of it. But Red Rising is a sci-fi series, and the premise is that this guy Darrow is he's a miner on Mars, and this is all the first like couple chapters. I'm not gonna. This is a huge spoiler, but it's a society where he's a red, and the Reds are essentially slaves. Like they work as the mines, they work all the dangerous, deadly jobs, and then you have the Golds, who are in charge of society, and they're all. This is all in the future, so they're genetically modified humans, and the Golds are like fucking superhuman. And then you have the Greys, who are kind of like their help, like the Golds helpers and enforcers and cops and stuff. You have like the Pinks, who are bred for essentially like seducing people and kind of for like the sexual gratification of the other colors. You have like Obsidians, who are giants with like 8 fingers, and they have like a Norse inspired culture, and they were bred for war. And it's all very like Roman Empire inspired, also like the names and stuff. And Darrow, his wife, does a dance in the first couple chapters of the first book that's illegal because it's like a dance to signify an uprising, and they hang her. And on Mars, when they hang them, you know, the person that essentially that loves you the most has to pull your feet because the gravity is not enough to break your neck. So he does this, he does it, and then he goes and buries her, which is also not allowed because she was supposed to be left hanging to rot as a message to the rest of the Reds. So then they kill him too. And obviously he's not actually dead because he's the main character. And he gets bred, or he gets genetically modified through like a brutal surgery to become a Gold. And his whole goal is to get rid of the color-based sort of status society and create a democracy. So the first book feels a little bit like kind of a YA book, I'll be honest, but it's much more well written. And the second and third book are both really fucking good. And originally it was only supposed to be a trilogy. So after the third book, they do a 10-year gap. And the fourth, fifth, and sixth books continue the plot, you know, later on. I don't want to say too much, but it deals with a ton of really interesting like politics and themes. The world building is really cool. The guy who writes it, I think his name's I say Pierce Brown. His writing style is pretty like I like it. The way that he writes, I like a lot. So all the action scenes are really cool. All the characters' inner monologues are super easy to read. And the first 3 books are from Darrow's perspective only. In the second 3, you get a bunch of other characters too. So it bounces around a bit more. And the second 3 books, well, this would be like a vague spoiler, but the first 3 books are kind of like having an uprising and how to manage it and like a revolution and kind of the consequences. And the second 3 books are much more about stabilizing society and how to run a society. This is something that was kind of touched on in Game of Thrones with Robert Baratheon, where, you know, he became king because he was good at swinging a hammer. He wasn't good at ruling because he was good at swinging a hammer. And it's a book where it's a series where fucking no one is safe. Like it's not It's not some super happy-go-lucky, you know, like you know how it's going to end type story. And I'm actually like I was really nervous reading the 6th book because I was worried that some of the characters that I liked were going to die. And then I found out that there was going to be a 7th book after I finished reading it. I was so fucking mad. Because I was like 3/4 of the way through the book and I was like, there's a lot of shit to wrap up here. And it's because he had to break the last book into 2 parts. Because I guess it was just too much story. But yeah, if you guys are into reading and you're into sci-fi, I would definitely recommend Red Rising. I might do a more detailed video about the books when I have some time. I started a script for one again and then just got distracted with, you know, covering whatever shows and movies and life and all that. Let's see. Jay says, No Country hits hard when you get older. Devastating ending. Yeah, it seems like you guys are all pretty positive about it. Maybe I'll have to find some time to watch it. Or if maybe you guys want to do a member request and make me watch it, that would take the decision out of my hands. But yeah, I posted in that channel update. I'm not going to do any videos that I actually give a shit about until, you know, my strike is hopefully gone here in a week and a half. Hard R says, actual book reviews would be nice. I can't stand these YouTubers that review them. You can't stand them because they're boring, or do they go too long or short, or what? Because I've actually not even seen very many book reviews come up on YouTube. I remember seeing book reviews come up for like Ready Player 2 a while ago. But outside of that, book reviews pretty much don't come up in my feed at all. But I don't even know like what the general structure of a book review would be. Like obviously movies, you know, most people have similar formats where it's, you know, you show some clips, you kind of talk about the gist of the plot. A lot of them try to keep it to about 10 minutes. Then you have your other people like Mauler and Little Platoon and those types that go 2, 3, 4 hours with it. But book reviews, I'm not sure if people would try to be concise or if they would just be up their own asses. I actually did a couple book reviews early on in my channel for like 86 and Mobuseka, like Trapped in a Dating Sim. I think Trapped in a Dating Sim did okay view-wise. 86 fucking no one watched. You'd have to watch them. They don't have a structure and they just come off as pompous. Look up some for Red Rising. So do they go short or long generally? Because books, I mean, depending on how much you want to talk about, I think it'd be easy to get to a 2, 3, 4 hour video. And, you know, the pompous thing is something that, well, I've deliberately avoided it my whole life because I just can't stand it. I can't stand when people are pretentious and elitist. You know, I've always, I mean, you guys can hear how I talk. I talk like fucking white trash. Like, yeah, I have a master's degree and shit, but, you know, I'm not, I don't know. It just bothers me when people just look down on other people and try to talk above them and use words that are obscure and stuff. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So Hard R says that they're usually short and then spend more time talking about the author than the actual book. That's weird. That's a weird thing to do. But authors, man, I mean, I'm writing my own book right now, or bitch about using certain words. So yeah, they sound like total douchebags. Yeah, I've actually written my own thing. I need to do one more edit. and I was going to self-publish it. But yeah, authors, even from just the little experience that I've had with, beta readers and editors and that sort of thing, that community is just kind of fucking assholes. Like, I don't really know a better way to say it. I had a guy that I was going to pay to do a developmental edit for me, which, if you don't know, developmental edits are fucking expensive. And so when you do that, you send them over the first chapter of your book or whatever, and they say, yes, they'll do it, or no, they won't, or maybe some of them are opposed to sex scenes. Some of them, they want to do certain genres. They don't want to, whatever. Like, they have their own things. They charge a certain amount per word. Blah blah blah. It's like Reddit, but somehow more pretentious. That's hilarious. Yeah, Reddit is a fucking cesspool. The only reason I get on there is because that's where all the fan translations for manga come out, like, super fast. And I read like a bunch of different manga series, so it's very helpful. But yeah, if you ever get sucked down into the rabbit hole of like any of the political shit, my God. But anyway, so I tried to, I reached out to a few developmental editors. Some of them were like, oh, the book has sex, I won't do it, blah, blah, blah. And one guy responded, and I wish I had the response pulled up so I could tell you verbatim what he said. But he said something along the lines of, it's clear from your writing that you don't lack intelligence, but because of your lack of experience, you have no regard for the reader. When you learn the fundamentals of writing and get this corrected, you can reach back out to me and I'll consider it. And I was like, what a absolute fucking fillator you are. But like, that's the type of people you're dealing with in the writing and publishing community. Just complete fucking assholes. Reddit's a lost cause. Yeah, Reddit fucking sucks. And half of it is bots. Half of it's just people making up bullshit to practice their writing. Like, you ever go to Am I the Asshole? Half of that shit is like, oh, my boyfriend molested my son and beat me in the face and fucked my mom. I'm considering breaking up with him. What should I do? Am I the asshole? That's YouTube reviewers? Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Divine said, can you tell us anything about the story you're writing? Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm going to go grab a drink out of my fridge because my fucking throat's dry from all this talking. And then I'll tell you about my story, and then I'm going to do this next level, and I'll probably call it. Because I've been going for 2 hours, even though I had to get rid of the first 35 minutes because I'm a fucking boomer, apparently. Did she burn the meatloaf? I'll be right back. 1 second. All right. So, Mr. Divine asked about the book that I wrote that I still need to do a fucking final edit for. I already actually gotta make the cover and everything, so I really just need to do this fucking edit. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever written anything or made anything like video wise, but editing is like, it's just fucking torture. It really is. But it's also really important, so it's like, you can't avoid it. Because honestly, I finished it fucking, I don't know, a couple years ago, and then I've done a couple edits and gotten a beta reader, and then I did half the fucking edit a couple months ago and then stopped because of life. And then it's also like, well, if I have free time, I'd rather spend on my YouTube channel than, writing, because it's a little bit more immediate. But so you're currently writing? Yeah, it's tough. I mean, to find the time, and then when you do have the time, you have to fucking commit. So I'm a really big fan of 1984 and, The Giver, Brave New World. Like, I love all those dystopian books. 1984 might be my favorite book just in general. I read it for the first time in high school and I just loved it. So mine is about, it's dystopian, obviously, but it's a society where, so the crux of the story is like a father-daughter story. So the main character, Christopher, has a non-biological daughter, Teresa, because in this society, no one has a family. They all live alone. They're assigned children to raise until they hit puberty. And the society is just called the collective. The government's called the virtuous. And all the people are just referred to as members of the collective. So they go through their education until puberty. Then once they hit puberty, they get assigned a duty. Christopher's a researcher. So his research is genetic splicing. It's all done by hand. And a lot of this gets explained in the story, obviously. And the way that it's set up is the researchers pretty much never successfully create a splice because they work in shifts. It sounds like you're just writing 1984 part 2 Modern America. Honestly, the thing that made me start writing it, well, besides the fact that really it was to help me, writing was to help me essentially deal with depression, because the best thing that I found for dealing with it is doing things that make you feel productive. Writing you can just do at home. You don't need money. You don't need people. You can just open your laptop and kind of go. And I've always been interested in writing anyway. So that's kind of so you're not wrong. But my motivation for it was actually back when I did start to take like a little bit of an interest in political shit, and equity became the trend instead of equality of opportunity. So I treated this world as if the equity side had won. So like everyone has gray skin because it's a futuristic society where they have the technology to do that. There's a standard height. So if you're taller than that, you have to hunch to a certain height all the time. Obviously that was based on the idea of, people are more favorable to taller people. If you're too short, you have to wear lifts, and if you're way too short, you have to get like a spinal extension, so they look like emaciated. They all wear the same clothes, and part of it too. So really, their life at this point only consists of meals get brought to their house in the morning. They go to their duty. They get fed at their duty during their shift, and then a meal gets brought to their house for dinner. So pretty much they don't have to do anything. They're all just kind of cogs in the collective machine, And like that one Fairly Odd Parents episode, I'm not sure which one you're talking about. And so Christopher is a researcher, and in his whole time that he's been in his duty, which the word time is never used because, without a quantitative measurement of time. So Fahrenheit 9/11. I like Fahrenheit 9/11 too, actually. Right, Fahrenheit. Is it Fahrenheit 9/11? No, it's Fahrenheit 451. Unless you're referring to something else. But I do like that book actually. But so early on you see that where Timmy wished that everyone was the same and it was great people. I've never seen that one. That's hilarious. Fairly Odd Parents putting in work. But the crux of the story, because I was trying to tell you a little bit of the world so it makes more sense, is that, Teresa is on the verge of puberty. Chris successfully creates a splice at work, and the whole time that he's done his shift, he's only ever done it once. And no one else has even done it because essentially it's I got to fucking spoil it. Nobody's going to read it. Essentially it's set up to where they're just filling people's time with meaningless tasks. And so when he does it twice, oh, sorry, I need to back up a little bit for the fucking world building again. So a part of it is that every day, whatever work they finish, they have to throw away and start over the next day. And that's part of like the equitable society. So he's only ever created one splice his entire time. Now, what I was saying there was the word time never gets used because if you have a quantitative measure of time, then you can be, the idea, whether or not you buy it or not, is without a quantitative way to look at time, there's not really any way to worry about or talk about things like history. Because every day is just a day. There's not. I do intend to publish it. I'm actually in between contracts at work right now, and I was hoping to finish it during this break that I have, but then my other contract fell through. So now I'm like, I've been distracted looking for work now. So that's kind of what's been going on and why I've been a little bit low productivity with YouTube, obviously, because I'm not making money here, even though I like doing it. So the idea behind the word time never being used is that if you don't have a quantitative way to measure time, how can you really discuss things like history or really contemplate the future, And this is something that was sort of played with in 1984, I'm sure you're familiar with it, where the book starts off and it talks about the clock struck 13. And, they're always altering history and that sort of thing. So I wanted to take it a step further and just have the concept of history not even really be a thing. So, anyway, so Christopher creates a splice. And because they have to throw their work away every day, he's only ever done it once before. And then he ends up getting abused by the virtuous because he creates a second one successfully. And creating a splice is a big deal. Like most of the researchers never actually do it. And so they suspect that he's holding on to his work and trying to get favorability with the virtuous by cheating and sort of violating this equitable society. So then he gets interrogated by Joseph, and essentially they beat the shit out of him and question him, and this makes him question the entire thing because he's like, I was doing my duty for the collective. I did it, and I got punished for it. So that's sort of the start to the story where he becomes more like I should be able to think about what I want and not just what's good for everybody else. So really, it's a pro classical liberalism story. And because he starts to question this thing on an individual level, he starts to allow himself to feel attached to Teresa, who's about to get taken when she hits puberty. Obviously with puberty, especially for girls, there's early signs before you fully hit puberty. So then he becomes concerned with how can I, is there a way for me to keep her in my life? Because, I try to do this in the story. I don't know if I do it effectively, but he tries to, he doesn't really give a fuck about her at first. He just views her as another job. But then once he starts questioning the collective and this ideology, he starts to see her as an individual and starts to value their time together. So then he's trying to figure out if there's something that he can do, to keep her in his life and not have to give her up. Because at that point, he's also George, when you're releasing your next book. So yeah, that's kind of it's a father-daughter story set in a dystopian collectivist society is the crux of it. And part of it too, and I actually had a lot of editors say that they wouldn't look at it for me because there are sex scenes, but the way that the sex scenes are treated is, I would say, almost medically. Like, it's called the quota in the story. And so I'm sorry, I started laughing when you said, George, when are you releasing your next book? Because I thought you were fucking calling me George Orwell sarcastically and not talking to George in chat because I've been calling him Hard R. That's funny. I'm way too white trash. Oh, because his name is George Hard R. Martin. Jesus Christ, I'm like really fucking slow in the uptake. Killing Reapers is distracting me. But yeah, so part of the society, and this is why a few editors said they wouldn't look at it for me, is because it has sex scenes. But the sex scenes are essentially viewed as medical in this society. And it's called the quota, where every day after your shift at work, you're obligated to go to the bar or to a bar in your area and have sex with a different random person. And the idea behind this is to keep, essentially to keep everyone fed and laid. And this keeps your society, calm. If people were getting food and getting fucked, they'll kind of let you get away with anything. And that was obviously very Brave New World inspired. Which Brave New World, if you haven't read it, is really good. The first chapter is a bit hard to get through, but as a book, it's still really good. I would like Cormac McCarthy. Yeah, I'll stop talking about it. I need to just go fucking finish it and stop being one of those people that says they're writing a book for fucking 20 years just to suck themselves off. What's he written? I think you mentioned some of his stuff earlier, didn't you? I need to scroll up through the chat. Let me see, because you did mention his stuff earlier. I would also like Helldivers and Dreadlore. Yeah, I've heard really good things about Dread. Shit, I'm trying to find out where you said what McCarthy wrote. You said it a while ago. Damn it. I'm scrolling through the chat here to see what you were saying he wrote. I'm not fucking finding it. Oh, here it is. No Country for Old Men, Sutri, The Road, Blood Meridian. Yeah, The Road movie, that's another one that people loved, and I was just kind of meh on. And it's not even like it was bad. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, he put it back in the chat. The Road, the movie was okay. And that's another one for me, kind of like No Country for Old Men, where I was like, it's fine. I just didn't get super into it when I watched it. But yeah, maybe I should check out some of his books. I'll be honest, most of my time is spent reading like light novels, or I'll read like a Halo book. I'm listening to the Darth Plagueis audiobook right now on Heir to the Empire and that sort of thing. But I do have books that I bought that I need to fucking listen to and just haven't gotten to them. Every once in a while, I'll throw in a nonfiction in there. Like I read Disparity and Discrimination by Thomas Sowell. It's a super short book, but super interesting. And it's pretty much just statistics. And the whole idea that essentially equity will never happen. And he talks about how, even if you look at kids within the same family, so they have the same race, same parents, same income, same status, same education, all these things, that the outcomes are never equitable, even just amongst a family of kids, like one family's kids. And he's like, how can you expect that for entire demographics of people? And I wish more people would understand that equity is just so counterproductive. I put on books when I'm driving, working, or fixing something. Yeah, exactly. I actually listen to books when I run pretty frequently. And then I used to listen to books during my commute, but then I've worked from home for the last couple of years. So my audiobook time has gone way fucking down. Shit, there's a Hydra here. I forgot to grab it. Shit. Sorry, I was distracted by that fucking banshee. But yeah, because I said it already, I'm looking for a new position. So if I do end up with a commute, I'll probably try to go back to listening to some more books, Oh, you fucking bitch. Oh no. Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I let that cunt get too close. Rip my heart out. Fucking banshees, man. I don't know why. I picked an adept playthrough for Mass Effect 2 and 3 this time. And adept is like the worst class, I think. Vanguard is the most fun for 3 for sure. But then you have Sentinel and stuff where you have both shield and armor abilities. And both of those are way better than adept. Oh, you fucker. But yeah, I'm not gonna keep talking about that. I just need to get it done. But yeah, it's nice talking about books because I don't really hang out with many readers. Like my dad will read fucking poker books, but that's about it. There we go. Fucking banshee. So yeah, it's nice talking about books. Maybe I should start doing more book stuff on my channel. It's just hard to say because I feel like people who are readers probably don't give a fuck about reviews, like once they've read a book. Read some 40K. Yeah, I've heard really good things about Warhammer, but that to me is almost so overwhelming. Hold on one second. My cat wants back into the office. Cat was being a turd. And no, I've heard really good things about 40K, but that kind of is like in the same vein as the Star Wars EU for me, where there's like so much material and it just seems like a lot because like the people that are into it are super into it too. And then I heard that there was recently like some controversy stuff because they're trying to make one of the male species also female or something. I think they're called Custodes. I don't know anything about it, so I'm not going to pretend like I do. But I've heard people were pretty upset. You look at some reviews for books you've read. It's hard to find anyone to do it right. Yeah, I think the reason that book reviews are a little bit more challenging than movies is because just because of the nature of books, there's so much information that it's like, you would almost have to commit to doing a couple hours per review, I think. And a lot of people just don't want to do that much, recording and editing and be really structured because like for me, when I do a movie review, I can get away with not scripting because the structure that I use is pretty similar every time. Where, I try to give a quick summary of the movie, like vague highlights and lowlights, and then I sort of go through the plot and the characters, just the parts that I like and didn't like. And then obviously if I do a long review like Halo, I can get really into the details. But for the movie reviews, those I can just not script, crank them out. Like my 2.5 hour Halo video, obviously that's all scripted because there's just way too much information there to not. There's just too much information. You can't just not script it. So I kind of wonder if that deters people from doing movie reviews. I'm surprised. I've never had the harvesters leave before. Usually they die. That's weird. Usually they stay until they die. Huh. Anyway. So I kind of wonder if that's what deters people from doing book reviews like that. Because if it were me, with all the detail you're given, I mean, you heard me, I just went off the cuff about my own story that's not even fucking published for 15, 20 minutes. So I know that if I was doing a book, I'd want to be long. Like fucking Mauler, long man bad. It'd be like Found Flicks ending explained, but the same way you do your reviews. The Halo vid was great because of the explanations. Yeah, well, thank you. And yeah, see, that's the thing is, if I was going to do books, I would want to go deep because you're just given so much information. The authors do put in the fucking work, and there's not really an excuse to, like, you don't rent a book and lose it. So like with a movie, I watch it once, I go from memory. Even the Halo show, I watched it once. I clicked back through to write my script for the full season one. But I didn't watch it again because I was like, I'm not going to commit. What would it have been 7 hours to rewatch this dog shit season? I just didn't need to. So yeah, I don't know how most people do their stuff. Like obviously some people like Mauler, Drinker, those guys all script. I don't script my short reviews. Anything that you see that's over, well, anything that you see as like a full season review, I've scripted. I was going to say anything you see over half an hour, but like some of my individual Halo videos were half an hour. And, those were unscripted. I watched the episode once and I just clicked through and talked about what I wanted to talk about. Same thing with Shogun. Which Shogun was very good if any of you haven't seen it. I'm a little bit bummed they announced they're going to do 2 more seasons because the book that it's based on was done after season 1. So now you're getting into the territory of, they're just going to be doing their own fucking thing. And, how often does that work out? Maybe 1% of the time? Maybe. I mean, for every, Shawshank and Shining you get, how many fucking Halos and Witchers and Wheel of Times do you get? Rings of Power. But yeah, I think if I can get this job shit worked out sooner than later, I can get back to putting more time onto YouTube. I said, yeah, just depends if they stay true to how season 1 was handled. We should know pretty quickly into season 2. Yeah, I'm not going to say 100% that it's going to be bad, but Wheel of Time sucking so much ass is why Disparu started making content. You know, that's the case for a lot of people. The very first video that I made was on the Matrix Resurrections. Because I was on the fence about making a channel anyway. And then when I saw that movie, I was like, fuck this. This is atrocious. But yeah, Istad. I hope the season 2 is good. But man, there's just so much stuff in Shogun that's really subtle. And it really takes its time. And my concern would be that it devolves into kind of unnecessary drama and action and sort of loses all the political dynamics and subtlety that made season 1 so good. And as far as Disparu, I talked about this the other day. I can't remember who was here. I think you were here when I was talking about Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. Because somebody asked me who is product in the Geeks and Gamers crowd. But I would never want to do what the Geeks and Gamers crowd does. Or Disparu, where they just focus on all of the meta stuff. And as much as I like Mauler, I would never want to completely ignore the meta stuff because I view it as a huge problem for why there's so much bad shit coming out. And then Drinker to me is the good balance. Like he focuses on the writing and story, but acknowledges that real world bullshit is bleeding in, and that's what's fucking these stories up before they can even get off the ground. So that's kind of the path that I try to go more, which is why I always just slip in, if I think there's culture war shit, I just kind of mention it at the end of the video because I don't want it to be the priority. I mean, obviously I have a video like Civil War where that one was 2/3 me talking about meta stuff, but that was just because of the way the movie was done. Fuck that movie. And Disparu, he's another one I would compare to like Ryan Cannell, where I don't ever watch his individual stuff because I think he just hyper focuses on, you know, is it woke or not or whatever. But when he's in live streams and talks a little bit more about other stuff, I find him more likable. Like Ryan Cannell, his actual channel is mostly just super short, almost news updates, culture war updates, whatever. But if you ever see him on live streams, particularly about Star Wars or just media in general, he knows his shit. Like if you watch Star Grift with Ryan, Mauler, and Star Wars Theory, I think Ryan has far more knowledge than probably Star Wars Theory did on Star Wars. And he can have conversations with Mauler about writing and story structure and that sort of thing. And, you know, I find that much more appealing than just, you know, there's a female lead, the show sucked, it's woke. And from what I've seen of Disparu's channel, that's what a lot of it is. Like, I don't think he really does any positive coverage from what I've seen either. And that's something else that I've tried to make a concerted effort to do on my own channel. Is I was trying to aim for at least 50-50 of like positive and negative stuff. But I think that I'm probably more like 60-40. But that's why you'll see me release just short videos about some anime that I liked or whatever. Because I don't want my channel just to be all everything sucks, everything's woke, blah, blah, blah. That's just not what I want to do. God, Kai Lang is such a shitty villain in this game. He's like an edgelord who just shows up and gets his ass kicked 3 times. And then he talks shit and he just sits here with his fucking helicopter. This is a super, I think, poorly designed and just kind of lame boss fight. Like I had to hide behind this fucking column and then just blast his shields down. Yeah, and then he got stopped the first time by Thane, who's fucking sick. What a scrub. In the Mass Effect books, he's actually a bit more scary and he's kind of a dick. That's annoying. Hopefully they can last for a couple more minutes for me. There we go. I can get this cutscene real quick. But yeah, I don't think I had anything else I want to talk about today. I'm wrapping this level up now anyway. So if you've seen what I've done with the other ones, what I'm doing is downloading them as soon as they're available on YouTube, which I think last time took about 12, 15 hours. And then, you know, getting rid of the parts where it's just me fucking with my audio. I'm going to see if I can get this figured out. If it's really just as simple as I had to plug the webcam in, then I don't know. I don't know what to do about that. I'll have to look online and see if there's a way to get rid of that. Because no one has said anything about the audio in about 2 hours, so I'm assuming it's okay. I turned my phone off a while ago. And you know, hopefully I can stop boomering. And get this to the point where, you know, I start up the stream and I can just go and not have to fuck with audio for 45 minutes while you guys all listen to me want to smash my fucking keyboard. Yeah, see, so the audio has been fine. That's really frustrating. I mean, like, why would it take... It's done this the last 2 times where OBS was being annoying or whatever for half an hour, and then suddenly it just worked fine. I mean, it's not like OBS has to fucking stretch or something to work. It's a computer program. Makes no sense. But what I've been doing with the streams is I'm going to unlist this one. But if it's just unlisted, anybody who's been here can still watch it in their history. And then I'm going to download it, cut off the whole first part. That's just me pissed off at the audio. And then I'll just re-upload it. And I don't know, maybe... I don't know if I should try to do some clips from it. Like maybe just upload different little segments of, you know, when I was on one specific topic. I'm not sure if that would be a good use of my time or not. Or if anyone would even be interested. But if I can get to the point where, you know, I have a couple of streams that go smoothly, my recordings are going smoothly again, I'd like to, well, first of all, it'd be a lot less frustrating for me and you guys to not have to hear that shit. But then I could entertain the, you know, the possibility of, you know, maybe having somebody on. Maybe I could talk to Sergeant Mandibles again when he's got nothing going on with his personal shit. Shamrock Dragon has a small channel. I don't know if she'd want to come hang out and talk to me. So if I can get the technical side worked out, it does give me more options to do other shit. I mean, I wouldn't even mind playing, you know, harder games if I wasn't having to keep an eye on the chat and make sure everything's going okay. Like if I know everything's working the way that it's supposed to, I can play a game where I have to focus a little bit more on the game if, you know, that's something that you guys want, or a new game comes out, or whatever the case is. Yeah, I think for people who've played Mass Effect, I'm pretty sure up until this point is about where people liked it. And then people got really mad at the last like level or two. Of course, we got Freddie Prinze Jr. voicing the broiest Mass Effect character. I just put this on in the garage while I'm in my background. I won't bitch about anything. Is what pissed everyone off. Yeah, see, I was like late to the party for this. So I actually didn't play it for the original ending. I played it when did this come out? 2012, I think. Or no, 2000 I think 2012. But I didn't play it until like 2013 or 14. So by that point, the extended ending had come out. And while I wasn't like super pleased with it, it wasn't so bad that I was like offended. Oh, my internet's fucking up. Damn it. Huh. That's annoying. That's okay. I'm wrapping up anyway. But yeah, I wasn't there with the original ending. So I only saw the extended ending, which, you know, a slideshow, not great, but for me, the thing that upsets me about endings is when I feel like the threads are either not closed off or it's just done very quickly. What about Andromeda? Andromeda, see, I like Mass Effect so much that I wanted to like it. So I played it through probably 7, 8 times. You know, did all the different romances, whatever, got all the achievements. I at the time I liked it, but I don't know if going back now I'd be like, eh. Like at a minimum, I would say that obviously the graphics, but the combat, the weapon customization, all that shit was really cool. The story, a lot of people were upset about it and kind of called it woke and whatever. For me, the bigger issue was that it felt like the original trilogy story, but store brand. Yeah, see, there's Donnelly and Daniels. Like the whole idea of Mass Effect 2 with the collectors is that they were turning species, you know, into the collectors. They were turning the Protheans into the collectors. They were trying to use the humans to make a Reaper. That's all like, you know, obviously Mass Effect 1, you have the husk. All of that stuff is horrific. But then when they go back to the well for Andromeda, it's like, well, like you've already done this. Like the Ket ended up being the same type of villain with I can't remember what they were called now. The guy Jaw was your main partner from them. I can't remember the species name though. I guess that shows how forgettable they were. But you know, it just felt like a shittier version of a story that they already told. And they had some good ideas there. Like I like the idea of Ryder not being very respected by his crew, kind of lost because he wasn't. He kind of got put into a position that he shouldn't have been in. But then, they just didn't do much with it. Like a lot of the characters felt bland. Obviously, you have the whole meme of Korra being an Asari commando. Vetra was like a chick, less cool version of Garrus. I liked Drax, the Krogan. He was cool. Liam, they made another just boring ass black dude. PB was okay. I actually usually ended up picking her for the romance option. But a lot of people seem to find her annoying. Yeah, overall, it's like they did everything that the original trilogy did, but worse. Except for the combat and the weapon customization. Like, I customized this Hornet to have 3 little, like, grenade bullet things. When I played through, it was bad as shit. But then there's also the idea that, like, when you want to mainstream something and make it easy to play, you have, have you played Baldur's Gate? No. I heard good things about it, but I haven't checked it out myself. But there's this thing that happens when a game gets more mainstream where they're like, oh, well, we want everyone to play it. And what they end up doing is nerfing everything. So, like, if you're, like, say you pick your class, I can't remember what they all were now because they were, like, slightly different than the Mass Effect classes, I think. But what you end up doing is, like, you can be a Sentinel or whatever, but then if you get tired of it, you can just switch to Adept, like in the middle of the game. So you're not committed to any one class. So, like, I like the idea of each class has weaknesses and sort of challenges associated with it. Here we can all see Tally, which Tally is my dog's name, by the way. And, I like the idea of each class having weaknesses. So then you end up with levels that are more challenging than others. It makes you have to pick your crew a certain way if you're not good. I mean, honestly, Mass Effect's not a hard game. So I can take any 2 crew members and the level's not really going to be that much different because it's just not a difficult game to play. It's not like fucking Halo or something. Or Gears of War on Insanity. But yeah, Andromeda overall, like if Mass Effect is like a 10 for me, Andromeda is like a 6. I played it through a few times, decided it was taking up too much space on my hard drive, deleted it and have never considered uploading it again. And it's a shame because they did do some cool things in there too. Like the end of the game, because you had to pick different sides throughout the whole game for different choices. And at the end of the game, the sides that you pick will show up to help you in the final fight. So if you've recruited all the people and like done all the choices and whatever, those people show up in the final level to help you fight. And I thought all that stuff was pretty neat. And it has one of the best trailers, I think, ever. The one where it's playing Human by Rag and Bone Man. And the whole thing is like, like fight for your survival or whatever. With the music and everything, it was awesome. And you don't know who the Archon is at that point or anything. So you're like, oh fuck, like this guy looks scary as shit. But yeah, I don't know. It is a bummer that we didn't get any Quarians because they didn't do the DLC. Just overall, I don't know. I mean, obviously the reception was bad enough that they're not making Andromeda 2. And they've announced Mass Effect 4, but are they going to go back to Shepard and canonize one of the endings? I don't know. And then that even isn't going to come out, it sounds like, until what, 2030? So, you go from 2017 was Andromeda, I think, or whatever it was. You go from that long until from 2017 or whatever to 2030 between games, because Mass Effect hasn't even started development. I can't imagine it's going to be, even if the game is good, who's going to care, So, unfortunately, Mass Effect, I think, ran its course as a franchise. They got their Legendary Edition out. EA did what they do, which is exploit a brand until it's dead. And we'll be stuck replaying the original trilogy and Andromeda if we want to keep playing. All right, but I'm going to call it here. I went for 3 hours, minus the 40 minutes that OBS decided to tell me to fuck myself. I'm going to try to get this figured out with the audio and see if this is really as simple as the webcam, or if this is OBS, or what exactly the deal is. Because I don't feel like I changed anything. I was talking to you guys the first half hour, and then suddenly it just started working. So I have no clue what the cause of that would be, how you go about fixing that. I don't know. But yeah, it was good talking to you guys and hanging out. Hopefully you're all having a good Sunday. I'm assuming most people are going back to work tomorrow. I might put out one video this week that I was gonna abandon. It's gonna be a parody of Halo. I have the video recorded. I just need to write a quick script and then record my lines, assuming I can fix my fucking microphone. And it's just the level Pillar of Autumn so far. And I'm gonna do like a what if Paramount wrote Halo Combat Evolved, because I think it's funny. But mainly, I was actually going to abandon it. But with this strike, hey, what's up? I'm actually wrapping up, Patterson. But with this copyright strike, nothing I put up will get views anyway. So I figured if I put up a video that I was going to abandon, no big deal. That's what's going on right now. There's a chance during the week that I try to stream again to test my audio. You guys want to pop in. But yeah, I think that's it for today. I'll have the re-upload available on the channel as soon as it's ready. That's kind of up to YouTube. The first one I did, it was ready in like 5 minutes. The other day, it was ready in the next day. So, and then even once it's ready, I have to convert the file and upload it to YouTube. And uploading a 2.5 hour video would take probably 6, 7, 8 hours. So, all right. Well, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Yeah, I think that's it for me. See ya. If there's a cheap game that you guys would rather me have on screen, let me know. Or you guys can pick one of the ones I already have, which right now is Mass Effect, Metal Gear, Halo, Halo Infinite. Sorry, Halo the Master Chief Collection, Halo Infinite. Whatever. All right, see you guys.